Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insurance Town podcast. I am the mayor of Sharon, the host of this podcast. I am excited. You're here hanging out because I got my man, Mike Tabasco, hanging out with me. This guy is just super cool. He's a friend of mine and someone that I respect a lot. He is actually, he's a teacher right now at San Diego State University in the AI department. They have a James Sillibrand Brown Center for AI. He's also a writer. He's an advisor. He's put out some books. He's done some really cool stuff. But, he's also worked for some massive corporations, including PayPal, as their director of innovation, which with a title like that, director of innovation, I knew he had to be cool. And I wanted to interview him on the show. So I did. And we relate all this into insurance. I promise you, we have a good time. It's a great, fascinating conversation. I know you might be tired of hearing about AI, but this guy comes at it from a different perspective. He tells some really cool stories about what they were doing at PayPal and what some of the other companies he's worked with are doing pre-AI, post-AI, how they set up for some of the changes that they made. Really cool conversation. And all of this is brought to you by my good friends over at Smart Choice, the fastest growing agency network, hands down. And they do such a phenomenal job working with agencies across the country, 10,000 of them to be exact, and 11 billion in written premium. These guys know how to do it right. They've been around since like 1989 or something. So they're definitely OG and doing things the right way. And they're also partnered up with some of the coolest carriers out there and MGAs, and they've developed some really cool niches that they work with. You gotta reach out, smartchoiceagents.com. Also, my friends at Canopy Connect, they've got some really cool things going on, and we've got a webinar coming out with them soon. We had an interview with Tolga recently. We're also going to have Ray on, and Nick Barry's going to be coming on sometime in the year. Just so you could hear about what they're doing with intake forms, with the onboarding experience, all of the things. So I want to make sure that you guys are able to check this out. So I'm going to slide out of the way and let you check out this phenomenal conversation with my main man, Mike Tedasco. Mike Tedasco, what's going on, my brother?
Heath, how are you today? I'm excited.
Man. I'm good. I'm excited to get to hit a record button and just talk to you for a little bit, man. Especially knowing what all you've got going, all your knowledge about AI. I just can't wait to tap into that a little bit for the audience here.
Awesome.
So talk to me, like, where are you at right now? What's the weather look like for you? What's life? How's life treating you today?
Life is good. I'm in sunny California, which is not bad. And actually just got back from a week in Hawaii. So like for being this time of year for most folks in the US, like I can't complain right now, Heath. So
okay, so did you do the luau and the buried pig, and did you eat the pig with the apple in its mouth? Did you do the whole thing?
They did the whole set. So we went to Maui, which has been, hit hard with the fires, but has very much come back. I live in the Bay Area, so like they got like super easy, accessible flights to get to Maui now. We did the luau one night. I got, two kids, 11 and 13. They like ceremoniously brought the pig out and all that. It had the apple in there. We were eating some sort of pork product. I was never quite sure, was it from that pig or is that just a display pig that they have at the luau? Like I wasn't sure if it was the same thing or not, but yes, like we did all of that. It was great.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's on a bucket list for me of going to Hawaii. And I want to do the whole thing. Like the guys that juggle fire and they spit fire out and they do the luau thing and they do the pig. And I want the whole experience. I don't care.
So it is worth it. It is such an awesome experience to do that. And Heath, I will say one thing. If you go to Hawaii, I never thought I was going to enjoy this as much as I did, but we went whale watching, and what we learned was like mid-February is prime time to go whale watching. And Heath, oh my God, it was like we're in the middle of a National Geographic, David Attenborough thing.
Yeah.
Like they were just like flying out of with their little calves, I'm like, this is crazy. Like I just kind of thought I would just see some humps coming in the water.
Yeah,
Like, no. They were just full on it was
dude,
intense. I loved it. I was
dude,
like,
that's
you have
amazing.
no idea whale watching would be so much fun.
So my wife and I took our kids on a cruise at Christmas time. We've always
Yeah.
wanted to do a holiday cruise, so we did
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, Spent New Year's Eve on the cruise, the whole nine. And everybody told us, get a balcony room and let the kids watch the dolphins. I'm like, there's
Mhm.
not going to be any dolphins, no big deal. Serious. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise and had a balcony room, but again,
Yep.
you could see the dolphins jumping like, I don't even call them herds of dolphins. What do you call them? Flocks of dolphins? What do you call them? But they'd be
We'll
like
go with flocks. It's probably something like a gaggle or something like
something.
a
Yeah. But
who
you could
knows what
see
an
like five
actual
or
is.
six of them jumping.
Yeah.
And like you could see like the whole, we're like, this is amazing. And my kids were like in awe. It'd be every morning almost when the sea was calm and everything was cool. Like I was like, to go to your point about the whales, man, I was just floored. So
Yeah.
um
Nature's a
comment,
beautiful thing.
yeah,
Yes.
comment if you're watching this on YouTube, comment, let me know. Is that a gaggle of dolphins? Is it a group? Maybe it's a group of dolphins. I don't know. A flock. I don't
Flock.
know.
I
What do
all
you
I know is
call
flock of seagulls. I don't know
Yeah,
anything
so
about that.
who knows? Oh, anyhow. But okay, so before we get too goofy here and start talking about dolphins and whatnot, I want to give you some time. I want you to go down memory lane with me. Let's take a walk
Yeah.
down memory lane through the countryside here and walk through town. Tell me a little bit about who you are, what brought you up to today, and let the audience know why I invited you to come on the show today. While you're doing that, I'm going to listen to you, but I'm also going to be finding out what this is called for dolphins.
That's more important. And that's really going to get the listener to keep listening to this is the fact that they're going to know that in 60 seconds, not
A
that
little
they're going to hear
teaser.
about me. It's the tease. Yes, folks, Mike Tedasco and my background, I was in finance. I graduated in finance, was doing corporate finance for years and strategy and all that stuff. Moved out to California from Ohio, where I was at before. Started my own business, failed miserably at it, but then had an opportunity to join PayPal, where I was at for 11 years. And I was doing product roles. And in the back half, I was actually running innovation for PayPal, which is super cool, working on future tech, AI, blockchain, augmented reality, all of these new tech, emerging technologies kind of came under that purview, which was super fun and exciting every single day. Left PayPal 2022 because I was so excited about where generative AI, as it's now called, was going. And I'm at a university now and write research, mentor, talk to people about generative AI and learn about that and talk to dolphin experts about what groups of dolphins are called, more importantly. So Heath, what's the answer?
Okay, so it came up with it'd be a school of dolphins, which makes
Oh,
sense. School of fish, a pod of dolphins, or a
ah,
team of dolphins.
how interesting.
I kind of
I,
like team, but
I would go with team too. Yeah, I
I
actually
mean,
like
but
that.
a school of dolphins makes sense because you have a school of fish.
Yeah,
But in a dolphin, a mammal, right?
it is a mammal. Yes, very
So
good.
that
Yes.
doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna go with team.
Yeah, I like team two. We'll go for that. It bothers me a little bit that there's three different
Yeah, I
things
should
for
go
a
with
group.
pod since I'm a podcast host, but that's just confusing. So I'm gonna go with team, a team of
You
dolphins.
know, somebody should come up with the Pod of Dolphins podcast.
Dude,
And it could be just all dolphin. Yeah, one of the things they actually did in the whale watching was they dropped a microphone down and they started playing whale sounds because they were loud, like these whales. And that was one of
wow.
the things. Like that could be a full-on podcast, whale sounds. You're going to go up the charts way past Rogan if you do that. So, free suggestion for anybody or Heath if you want to take that on.
Love it. Yeah. So introducing next week, you'll see the first episode of Pod of Dolphins podcast. Or the podcast of dolphins. I don't
Podcast of dolphins, I guess. And you just put the
yeah.
pod big. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or the pod of dolphin cast.
Ooh,
That might be okay.
you're
We'll
on to
we'll
something
we'll,
here.
we'll play with that. Again, throw that in the comments if you want to, or shoot me an email that I'm an idiot. And Mike and I will take that. Maybe fine. Okay. So let's get into so talk to me a little bit. Let's go back to
Yeah.
PayPal.
Yeah.
Because I love that. I don't know when your time started there. I know when it ended because you gave me that.
2011 is when it
Okay, so
started.
you were there a good while. So
Yeah.
first of all, PayPal in itself, I'm assuming back in those days in 2011, I don't know the time frame of I know when I was introduced to PayPal, that was an innovative thing in itself. And to
Yeah.
think about changing the way things are done in that perspective. And that was kind of a disruptor in itself
Oh,
to
absolutely.
say, now you can pay this way and you can send your friends payment. You can send your this payment. You can, because I remember when it first came out, we thought of it as a way of like, me and my buddies, when we were at dinner and we had to split the check, we would just say, okay, I'll just pick it up and you just send me your PayPal,
Yeah.
and that's how kind
Absolutely.
of Venmo kind of took it from there a little bit. But tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
the disruption factor of that, and what that was for you, just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and look, to be clear, I was a user of PayPal since I think 99 or 2000, back when they were bribing people to use the product. They used to pay
Right.
you. That was one of the growth hacks. They raised so much venture capital money that they would basically give you 10 bucks for signing up. And also 10 bucks if you would refer somebody. So it was like $20 checks they were just giving out to people again and again and again. And that's how PayPal got to be big. The real unlock with PayPal, it was meant to be a peer-to-peer transfer service for Palm Pilot payments,
Yeah.
which never took
All
off.
pilot.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's literally, I mean, literally the first payment was made on PayPal, was getting VC funding and was sent from Palm Pilot to Palm Pilot. And Max Levchin, one of the founders of PayPal, he had created this other little test thing where you can put an email address in and money would be sent to that email address. It was purely a test. And all of a sudden, like they're doing this, and all from eBay.com, they were getting all of these things going to that test email address. And as the story goes, I was not there at the time for this, but as it's been passed down, again and again and again, Max and the team were like, wait a minute, we're about sending money between Palm Pilots. Why the hell are people sending money to email addresses? That's not what we're for. Should we shut this down? What's that about? And then after a couple months, and this is the great thing about pivoting, as all businesses effectively do at some point, um, they finally realized, like, oh, wait a minute, that's the business. It's not about sending money to Palm Pilots. It's about sending money to friends. It's about doing a better, like I used to use eBay back in the day where you used to have to get a money transfer,
Yep.
put that in an envelope. They had to wait for it to
Or
clear.
Western Union or
Oh, it was
whatever. Yeah.
horrible. It was horrible versus just to do it online. And that
But to
was
your
the
point,
great
had
unlock.
Blockbuster done the same thing, they'd still be in business
Yeah.
and we wouldn't have Netflix necessarily. But,
Yes. Yes.
I'm glad that PayPal was able to pivot and make that move with their
Yeah.
emails.
And look, I mean, for all companies, be it in payments, insurance, or whatever it is, like things change, things evolve, and you have to constantly be really re-looking at their business model and saying, like, what is it that we need to do? When I joined PayPal 2011, we didn't realize it at the time, but we were in a huge pivot to mobile.
Yeah.
And that was a big, big opportunity for us. So I joined the mobile team back in 2011. Like back then, mobile was its own discrete unit within a company.
Yeah.
And as part of that, like I just got to see this rocket ship like go up. Like, I mean, no one in PayPal, like they're like, it's mobile, whatever. People aren't really going to use that for payments. Like we didn't even know. But then all of a sudden we started to realize like, oh, mobile's the actual business.
Yeah.
And then, and mobile just became everything. And like soon enough, everyone, across businesses started to realize, oh, all companies are just mobile first. So these are all like, fun lessons and things that we learned over the time there.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And real quick, before I get off of PayPal,
Yeah.
I'm going to dig in here just for a minute. So audience, hang with me. You guys know me. I like to squirrel out a minute, but I do want to get into this for a minute because at what point, and maybe you were a part of these conversations, maybe you weren't, but at what point did it go from that peer to peer to realizing we could go into businesses like insurance, for example? We could go into financial service. We go into people using us for transactions for business purposes outside of PayPal or eBay.
Yeah. It was something that was still happening while I was there. I think probably when I joined, eBay still accounted for, I think, over half of
Oh, I
the
bet.
payment volume on PayPal versus today, I would guess like it's probably less than 5%.
Right.
It's a tiny amount. Um, Two things happening at the same time. There was always kind of, eBay was always a core business. It helped PayPal grow. It helped eBay grow. They kind of grew side by side. eBay acquired PayPal in 2002, only to spin it off in 2015 while I was still there. Um, so you would see these two things, growing, expanding with each other and so forth. But there was this merchant services business. It was like, well, couldn't we
Yeah,
just apply these same tactics to other businesses, to the 99% of e-commerce that is not eBay? There's a real opportunity there. PayPal did good in that, did a lot in that, but they're not the leaders. I mean, Stripe, dare I say, really became like the leader in those types of,
sure.
the merchant payments, and that system. PayPal was there. It, I think part of it was because it was always in service of eBay in some ways, and it was always part of eBay. It kind of missed a lot of those things, but like there's more opportunity in that. There's more money. It's
Right.
a great business model if you really think about it, because PayPal charges a merchant 3%. And if you have somebody peer to peer you and you got a bunch of money sitting in your PayPal accounts,
Yep.
that merchant, that's basically a free transaction for PayPal. They still get 3% from the merchants. The cost of that funding is effectively zero for them.
Yeah.
And that was a great unlock that made PayPal a super, super profitable company.
Yeah. The
So
thing for
both of
me
those things
is,
together. Yeah.
yeah, the thing for me that I enjoy about it is, as a user, because not my go-to. I won't lie. I mean, you're
Yeah,
not there with
that's
PayPal
fine.
anymore, but like whether it's Cash App or whether it's Venmo or whatever. But when I do see it pop up as an option, you can connect a bank account, or you can go to credit card or PayPal. I'll
Yeah.
typically go to PayPal because I trust it,
Yeah.
and everything's already set up. My bank account's already there,
Right.
which I'm sure it's costing me more money, but for convenience purposes only, I don't want to dig out my routing number, my bank account number. I don't
Yeah.
want to dig out my credit card, read off those digits, and get all the stuff. I just plug in my PayPal, and I
Yeah.
just think that they were, in my opinion, I think they were smart, and it had to have been intentional.
Yeah. And honestly, in the early years, the big value proposition for PayPal was security, was that you're going on a website and it's, Heath's dolphin chips or something
Right.
like that. And on that website, you're like, I don't know, like I want these dolphin chips, but like I don't really trust this website. Am I going to put my credit card in there? That was the value prop initially. It was like, well, you don't have to worry about that because like just use PayPal. We will never show your credit card to Keith's Dolphin Chips. We're just going to do that directly and
Yep.
like we'll get them the money. You don't have to worry about typing it in, all that. It was safety, it was convenience and all that.
Yep.
That's evolved. People aren't as concerned these days about that, as they
So
were,
let me
somewhat
let me
rightfully
just
so.
throw this disclaimer out there. No dolphins were harmed in the recording of this podcast.
No,
So
no, these are
don't.
chips that dolphins eat, and you're just
Okay.
eating the same chips. They're
Okay.
chips that
So it's
dolphins eat. They're
dolphin
not
food.
made of dolphin. No,
Okay. I just want to make sure that people knew that there was that no dolphins were harmed in the
no,
recording of this,
we wouldn't hurt a single pod of dolphins. That is not what
or
we're about.
school or team.
That's right.
I think it'd be cool if I said I had a team of dolphins. Like, this is my team. I'm the coach. Like, we're coming to get you. Anyway,
That's
all right.
a 1990s Disney movie that I feel like is deep in their catalog. The Team of
Oh,
Dolphins.
for sure.
Yeah,
Instead of Air Bud, you got Air
yeah,
Flipper or something.
yeah,
Anyway, all right. So, again, you bring a good point, and again, audience, of insurance people listening here. I mean, what we're talking about here directly or indirectly relates to your world, because the more you can make things easy, and that ease of doing business with your customers, I think the better. And I
yeah,
think whether it's PayPal or whether it's some other piece of technology that you use in your agency to make life easier for your customer, I think you're going to see your business grow. And we're gonna dig into, for those that saw in the title or saw in the show notes, we're gonna get into AI here in a minute. But
yeah,
I just think you talk about technology, and I've gotten to know you a little bit to know your strengths here. But whether you're in insurance or not, you come from a finance background, but I think the more that people listening right now can embrace technology, and let's be honest, Mike, you and I have talked about this. Insurance world comes, it's more of like the old adage of pale, mail, and stale. So there's a lot of people in here, they're still scared of technology. There's a lot of people listening
yeah,
right now. Excuse me, audience, but I'm being real with him. That are a little bit behind the times when it comes to technology, or a little bit nervous about bringing in technology. But to that point, if you can find certain technology pieces you are comfortable with, you can make life easier for your customers.
absolutely, absolutely. And I would say if you're not comfortable with technology, find a way to make your life easier for yourself. for starters. Like that's where I would start. Like that's point one, and maybe we'll get into AI just a little bit here. Like if you're sort of on the sidelines, and look, I mean I remember enough. I started college 1995 at the University of Illinois. Just
Okay.
by chance, that happened to be where Mark Andreessen and the Netscape team had created the browser. I had never used the internet before I got to college. And I literally just go in there day one and like, all this stuff is online. And I'm like, what is this? There's these magical blue links. It was like I entered another world, another time. It's just where I happened to be going in 1995. I remember having a talk with my dad coming home like over the break or something. I'm like, yeah, I got this email address and all this. Like this was new. This was exciting to me. My dad was like, well, why would I ever use an email address? I'll just pick up a phone and call somebody. Like that doesn't make any sense. And Heath, as you can imagine, today, 25 plus years later, my dad's on email all the time, like constantly.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Like he found a use for it. He's like, oh, I could do contests through there. I could talk to people. I could share stuff. I could do this. I could do that. It's like, oh yeah, I found all these uses for it. And that is going to be the reality of what AI is going to do, except I would say it's, probably going to do what the internet did. It's just going to probably even be 10 or 100 times more impactful. And I truly, truly mean that and believe that. Uh, what these models are going to be capable of and what they're already capable of, it's life changing. When I went to Maui last
Yeah.
week, that was all planned by AI. Like I hate planning trips. I hate doing all that stuff.
Right.
Like the AI did that for me. All of these things, like, whatever it is, either in your business or again, I would even just start on the personal side. If you're somebody who's like, yeah, I don't know about this. And we can talk through some specific uses, like for your health, whatever it might be. There is
Sure.
so much that these things can do. And once you get comfortable with it, from a position where it like really helps you out personally, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. We might be able to use these kind of tools to support our customers, to help with paperwork, to do all of these types of things.
100%. And to your point, for me personally, when I first started hearing about ChatGPT and generative AI and whatnot a couple of years ago, the first use case I was thinking about for me personally with this podcast was the biggest pain point for me and stuff that I don't enjoy doing is writing the show notes, right? Coming
Yeah.
up with a title for the podcast. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to upload the transcript from every podcast into ChatGPT and say, hey, write me concise show notes with 4 bullet points and my 3 sponsors. And I told ChatGPT what my sponsors were.
Yeah.
And within a minute and a half back then, it spit out the most beautiful show notes I've ever seen.
Yes.
And then I found a way to integrate that into the platform that I use. So as soon as I hit stop on this, it automatically uploads transcript into that. And the integration piece was just pivotal for me. And so now, my life is so much easier. And then I started thinking, what other use cases? And the funny to me, you say that the other day, I was sitting there talking to my wife and, we've been snowed in a lot lately in Arkansas, which you don't have anything to do. You don't know anything about that being in California. So, but we've been snowed in a little bit and the kids have been home and we were like, I can't get out to the grocery store and we, trying to figure out what to cook. And so I just started going through the pantry and found out, 5 or 6, 7 or 8, 9 ingredients that I had in the pantry. I was like, what could I do with this? So I had this brilliant idea that's never been done before. I promise you. But I put all those into ChatGPT and said, give me a recipe. And it gave me 1,000 recipes. Yes. And I say that in jest because I'm sure it's been done before. But in my mind, I thought, I'm the most brilliant person ever. No one's ever thought to put ingredients in a ChatGPT and say, spit out a recipe. But I have a whole cookbook now of recipes that I can do with random ingredients that were in my pantry at that moment. And some of them are really good. And some of them are like when you were in college and you'd make hot dog ramen, but some of them are really good.
Well, and here's one of the things, Heath. I love that idea. I love that. And one of the cool things you could actually do with ChatGPT, you can even take a picture of your pantry and just say, here's what I got left in my pantry. You don't even need to type it up. Just here's a picture. Give me some ingredients of that. What I would recommend, Heath, is like do one of those and then give it feedback. This is called reinforcement learning with human feedback. And so
Yes.
basically then say, hey, I tried that hot dog, blah, 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 whatever thing. And you know what? It was a little too salty, a little too this. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. And can you give me now another recipe based on my taste? And the AI is actually going to then start to learn your behaviors. I've actually done this with my family. My wife doesn't like to eat red meat. My kids are picky about God knows what. I don't really eat carbs. Like it makes like making dinner is ridiculous in the
Yeah,
Tedasco
yeah,
house.
yeah.
And given all of that, like what I have is I have a custom GPT where it basically says, okay, given all of these constraints, give me a recipe. Or like, hey, we're feeling something like this today. Give us something like that. Like, it's awesome. It is
A
so
hundred
awesome.
percent.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so again, uh, I've come up with so many different ways. I will say this for the audience listening right now: if you've not ventured out to, first of all, if you're still on the fence, we'll go back to that. If you're on the fence,
Yeah.
start with like I just said. Find some ways that can help you, or what you just
Yes.
said. Obviously, find a way to
Yes.
help you. If you're on the fence about going a step further and paying for it and getting the custom GPTs, I would 100% say do that. I started doing that early on, and I have my own custom GPTs. I got a bunch of them built out.
Yeah.
And you just continue to add to that. You can continue to do this. And then the other cool thing about the newest, I shouldn't say newest, but one of the newest upgrades was, I put in my own voice. And I typed in what my voice is and what I like to do and what my favorite things are. And I even put in there by accident, and I got to take this out because it does this every time. And I have to end up going back and saying, hey, take this out. But I put in my thing. I love, I talked about sports references and who my sports teams are, but then I also said I love a good dad joke. So now at
Yeah.
the end of every single one of my chat GPTs, it throws in a dad joke. And if I don't catch it, then I'll send out an email or I'll send out a blog or I'll send out something with a dad joke in it. But usually I have to catch it or I'll go back in and say, okay, rewrite this, take out the damn dad joke. And it will do that. But anyhow, it's very good. And so the more I've built out my custom GPTs and changed things and added to it and gave it feedback, to your point, now however many months later, years later, whatever it may be, I can go in there and I know without a shadow of a doubt, those show notes are going to come out with my language,
Yeah.
with my, the way I talk, the certain lingo that I use. It knows me because it reads what I'm typing to it. So it knows what to say. So again, the last thing I'll say, then you're the expert, I'll shut up. But
No, you're
the
nailing
last
it.
thing I have noticed is it recognizes the way you talk to it. So if you're one of these people that are very short and, like, I need this, like commanding to it, it's going to give you talk back that way. But if you come into it like, I really need this to be done, thank you so much for that, blah, 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 the way you speak to it, that's the way it thinks. Because at first, I treated it like Google and I would just put in like keywords and grunts and caveman talk. But once I started massaging that and saying things and like, kind of like when I talk to my Alexa, I'll just say, Alexa, turn on the lights.
Yeah.
But, if I massage it a little bit and say, hey, thank you for turning on the lights, it'll come back to me and say, oh, you're welcome. But anyway,
Yeah.
I say all that to turn the floor over to you to talk about ChatGPT or AI to some sort of extent.
Sure. Let me expand on a couple of things. So these models, for if folks don't know, they're actually built to please. They're really made and constructed to kind of make you happy and to fulfill your requests. And that's a good thing, and that's also a bad thing. And just to kind of hit both ends of the spectrum. So if you talk in a certain way, it will often kind of mimic that. It will look at those behaviors and so forth and mimic that. And that's probably a good thing because that's more likely how you want to hear answers in return. The downside of that is I was literally just yesterday talking to a writer friend of mine who was using this as an editor. You put anything you write into ChatGPT or Claude or one of these large language models, it's gonna be like, oh, this is so cool. Like, this is a great idea, even if it sucks. And so like you have to kind of like just know that like these models are actually built to please. Ain't always going to be really upfront and honest with you. You got to like kind of prompt it. And a lot of the magic is the prompting to say, hey, okay, I want you to find 5 things wrong with this to improve this. This is an early draft. I know this isn't good. Like you kind of do things like that, and that will actually get it. So like, just one of those things to watch out for folks using this early. You might say, well, ChatGPT said this was awesome, like this business idea or this thing I was going to do was awesome. It's kind of meant, it's built to do that. So you almost have to train it to just say, hey, don't just say it's awesome. I actually want you to be very critical of this. And it will do that then, because again, it's pleasing you. If you're telling it to be critical, it'll please you by doing that. Um, the one other thing I will say, another model that folks aren't as familiar with. So ChatGPT is made by a company called OpenAI. That's the best known. There's a great model out there that I might even use more. It's called Claude, made by a company called Anthropic. And in Claude's model, it's just really good for writing and things like that. I write a lot. And one of the things I did was I
Is
put
that
in,
Claude?
yes, Claude
Okay.
isn't like name, like
Yeah.
Claude. Who's a famous person? Whoever, like a famous person named Claude, which I can't think of.
Yeah.
Claude. Yeah, Claude. Um, in the Claude model, you can actually train it on your own writing. And so I uploaded, I think, like 10,000 words of writings about AI. And I usually have a style of, some humor, some like,
Yeah.
it's a mix of all this stuff. And then it will actually learn from that more specifically and give you an output even closer. Now, I can't just say it's not good enough to the point, at least for my own taste, to say, hey, now give me a write-up about why ChatGPT is not as good as Claude and this, and this, or give me
Yeah.
competitive. It's not going to do that quite. But if I wanted to write hey, can you write a letter to a lawyer that's responding to this legal document, that's basically saying these 5 points? It'll do that probably 98% of what I would want it to say.
Yeah. So now I remember it's just another squirrel moment, a sidebar, but I remember,
No,
I want to say it's been 10 or 12 years ago. I remember IBM, I think, coming out with a Watson maybe,
sure. Yes. Yeah.
that was way before ChatGPT or
Yeah.
Claude. And I wonder why back then that didn't take off. I didn't hear much more about it after I saw it, I think a Super Bowl commercial maybe, or
Yeah.
something with
Well, there was
Watson. And then,
Jeopardy. They did Watson on Jeopardy, which was a big thing. It beat Ken Jennings
oh,
on
wow.
Jeopardy.
I
Yes.
did
So
not know that.
yeah, so Watson went on, and then I think you find these on YouTube. Watson went on Jeopardy. Anybody can see that. Really, this is also on YouTube. If folks really want to get to how we got to where we're at today with generative AI, there was a few key events that happened really over the last 15 years, I would say. Um, One was the first time a team was able to use, and I'm trying not to get too technical here, but was able to use some techniques to be able to much more effectively decipher cat pictures and to actually know what's a cat versus what's not a cat. And this would have been 2012 or something like this. So it was something that was built called ImageNet. And so it was literally millions of pictures that they had with tags to it. And then they would have an AI and say, hey, do you know what? Without saying the tag, could the AI guess what the tag was? That's a cat. That's a dog. That's a tree. That's more complex, but that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they use some new techniques using deep learning to be able to do that. Um, and then another thing that happened, and this is what's on YouTube, there's a movie called AlphaGo. It's a documentary. It's great. It's very, I actually wrote a whole article on my blog about it just over the past summer as I was talking about a lot of AI movies. AlphaGo happened in 2016, where Google's DeepMind built an AI to go against the world's, no pun intended, to face the world's greatest Go player. And as part of that, and you can see this in the movie, spoiler, like the AI won. And this was not like beating Gary Kasparov in chess, which happened. IBM did
Yeah.
that 25 years ago. Um, like the amount of permutations in Go is astronomical. It's astronomical. Like it is, no computer can do that. You can only do this through a machine learning system. And in the movie, you could see one of the things that Go did, and it learned by playing itself, literally millions and millions of times. And because of that, what happened was it actually did moves that human beings would never do. Like it
Wow.
learned to think in a different way. And there's, I think it was Move 37 in there. They spent a lot of time talking about this. Like you could see literally the reaction of the
That's crazy.
human seeing the
Yeah.
machine do this, be like, was that a mistake? And then he before any, and like the commentators, everyone's free, like, why would it do that? Such a dumb move. And then it actually, he was the first person because he's the most brilliant human mind. He realized 10 minutes later, oh my God, it just won the game. Like, and it did something never
Yeah.
really seen before. And since then, it's literally changed how people play. That has kind of been that direct line with many other things going on that has gotten us to where we're at today. And the real unlock, the thing I love about AI more than anything, even at that time in 2016, you had to be an engineer to play with these tools. The amazing thing with what really ChatGPT in 2022 unlocked, anybody has access to the world's most powerful tools for like 20 bucks a month. Like the most powerful thing that the humanity has ever seen is at your fingertips for 20 bucks a month, and people are still not using that. And
Yeah.
that's where like that's why I want to do these shows. I'm like, people, like I have no stake in OpenAI. I don't make money from this at all. Like,
Right.
but I'm just like, there are the most powerful things that humanity has ever seen. This like almost like intelligence, almost a, you know, some people are calling, I don't call it that, but maybe its own species eventually or something like that. And it's there to serve us and whatever. It's a tool for us to be able to use in any way we want. It's super
100%.
exciting.
And
Yeah.
so in our space,
Yeah.
a lot of insurance agencies, when you first think about it, you first hear about it, and I'll be guilty of this too, of ChatGPT, you think, or this is what I hear, this is a great tool, I could use for writing social media posts, or I could use this for writing blogs or writing content or whatever it might be. And it's an easy way of doing it. Hey, ChatGPT, write a blog on
Yeah.
blank. And it does it.
Yeah.
Great use case there. Love that. But I would like to challenge my audience to think a little beyond that. And so some of the use cases, and I'm going to ramble for a minute while I give you an opportunity to think of a couple.
Hmm.
I'm putting him on the spot here, but he told me to challenge him. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
doing
fine.
that.
I'm fine with that.
So a use case I'm seeing a lot more often nowadays is having the closed GPTs, but to be able to upload policy documents or
Yeah.
training their clients to do that. But if you upload someone's policy documents and someone calls you, let's say Mike calls you up and says, "Hey, I would like to compare. I got a quote from a guy down the street. I'd like to compare my quote with your quote and see, why his is so much cheaper." Then you could, say, okay, yeah, give me a minute. Bring your policy or bring their quote. You could upload your policy docs with theirs and compare the two, and ChatGPT will spit out a great comparison and say, here's where there's some differences. Here's why theirs is cheaper, whatever it might be. Beautiful use case. And
100%.
you have to make sure it's on a
100%.
closed GPT. Otherwise, it's going to be out in the open, and their social security numbers and bank accounts and all that could be out there. So make sure it's on a closed GPT. However, that
Yep.
is one of a common use case that I see now and I hear about now. Stating that back to
Yeah.
you, could you give me another one that you could think of that
Yeah,
insurance
absolutely.
agencies could
And
use?
look, I think it's great to yes, yes. It is amazing. And you do want to preface this. Like you do want to know that this information is being potentially shared in a way that you shouldn't be sharing PII, personally identifiable information. Like you need to be careful with that. Just as I'm sure you are with how you email stuff, with
Yep.
how you store stuff in the cloud, all that other kind of stuff. So it's similar to that. It's no different than that, I would say. So um, comparing policies is something that these should be able to do in seconds.
Yep.
I would say for anything that is a repetitive process that you have in your offices, these are things that can take that and simplify those drastically. Whether it is inputting information, you could connect these things to a Notion or something like that, where you can literally be scanning something with a phone and saying, "Hey, can you upload this to the other account or this database that we have?" And you could do things like that. So for input of information, it is amazing for being able to do that kind of stuff. Let's see, like, and honestly, Like what I would almost love to do is just sit down with somebody for a full day and just see like, there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity. Um, you
Well, that
know,
being said, there's another big one that while you're about to say
yeah,
another
yeah, yeah.
one
Go
that
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
these VoIP systems, they record conversations. They had the conversations right there on your voice over IP phone system. You can upload those conversations and have an analysis or have that integrated in there with a generative AI to say, okay, give me a synopsis of what was just said, or give me a this, or tell me if you want to use it for training purposes. Mike's new to insurance.
Yeah,
I just hired him. Let's record the
yeah.
next 10 of his phone calls and give him feedback of where he screwed up, where he did right, what he could have said, what he didn't say, and give me a report on that and let me spit that back to Mike. That's another use case I see a lot. I just got to give you time to think of another one. You there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just listening to something with a company called Computer. I think
Okay.
that's their website, Computer. And I was just listening to something with them. What they do is they have a like a little wrist thing that you put on, and this might not be the perfect thing, but that taking that concept where it just records everything you do all day. And it gives you a summary of that. And it takes these
Oh
audio
wow.
files and it will start to summarize things. If you're doing outbound sales, you can easily be able to train one of these models, and there's tools and services that already do this that will be able to guide you on that to be able to better focus whatever it is that you're doing in your sales pitch and your routine that you have with that. Anything that you have that is a repetitive process that is coachable, like ultimately what I would love for for the agents out there who are listening to this, think about where your real value add is. And where I'm going to say to you that is, it's in building human relationships. It is actually working with people, is getting to know the policyholders. It is doing all of that stuff. So how much of your job today, if you spend 8 hours a day, how much of your time is really spent doing this? And I'm not even talking about like calling up one of your customers and saying, hey, we need to update this in your file, blah, 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 whatever it is. Like an AI can do that. I'm talking about just like building those relationships, letting them know that you are there. You as a human being are there for them. You are thinking about them for when things go bad. For, that they know that that is on the other side. That is the one thing that is going to matter going forward. It is those personal relationships because almost everything else an AI is going to be able to do better. An AI is going to be able to do that more effectively. An AI is never going to be able to be a human being. And human beings, we don't look for perfection in our lives as much as we think we seek that.
Yeah.
Like a great example, you're talking about sports earlier, Heath. I went to the NBA All-Star game this past weekend.
Oh,
It
that's
was
awesome.
super fun.
Yeah.
Me and my son got to see our combined hero, Steph Curry, shoot
Yeah.
basketballs from like half court and do all these amazing things. Um, Super fun doing that. Here's the reality. We can build machines that do that better than any human being today. Toyota has built a basketball shooting thing. Like I saw a demonstration of this thing. It shot like 2,500 free throws in a row and never missed. I don't even think it ever even hit the rim on a
Oh
free
my
throw. And then
gosh.
they just stopped doing it because like they're like, we just got to go now. They they
Yeah.
wanted to see how long it would take, but it just kept going. And do you know what? For a human being, that's boring. We don't want
Right.
that. We
We
want
want
the
the human.
relationship. We want to see, oh, that's Steph. I don't want to just see a robot. I don't want
Yep.
to, certain times I will want to talk to a robot, but when things get really bad, when your customers actually need you, that's when they're actually going to want to talk to a human being who can empathize, who can do all
100%.
of those kinds of things. Like, so that is the one thing I will say. Look at
Well,
all of the other things that are being done in your office, whatever it might be, and just find the opportunities there. And don't try and change them all overnight. Just
right.
little pieces. And again, this is not about, well, does that mean that our administrative assistant, we can get rid of him or her or what? Like, no, that's not what this is about. This is actually saying, hey, You are scanning these. I actually want you to spend more time with the customers as well. I want them to get to know you. I want you to do that. So if we could take this hour that you're doing that, make that into 15 minutes, and then take that 45 minutes and do other things, like that's what this is all about.
I agree. And that's what we say about insurance, technology, fintech, any of these technology companies. We're not here to replace humans. We're here to enhance
Yeah,
humans. And same thing with
that's right.
ChatGPT. Same thing with AI, generative AI, the whole nine. And that felt like a great place to shut down. I think that was great advice, but there's so much more I want to get into. But I will end with this. That was great what you just said. And I appreciate that. And you may or may not know this. Going back to what you said about Toyota and basketball and whatnot. So there was a company recently that had the very first ever licensed generative AI in insurance, and they passed the insurance
Okay.
exam.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so now they're not the company's called Gale or Lula. The robot is called Gale, but the company's called Lula. Now they're
Mhm.
not using that right now to sell insurance or be a competitor in insurance, whatnot. They just want to see if they could do it.
Yeah.
Now that tells me that somebody else is going to copycat that, and before you know it, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, every insurance agency is going to have licensed AI in their agency, probably. But
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless there. I would just say, what to echo what you said, and I'll let you wrap up with this if you want to, of like, whatever you do, don't take away the human element. Don't take
Yes.
away the relationship element, because my mantra on this show is, that I'm a firm believer in relationships. I'm nothing without the relationships I've built over the last 25 years in this industry. So
Yeah.
anytime I can enhance those and find a way to do that, I'm all in. So I think this is a
Absolutely.
great way of doing that.
Absolutely. And even with that example, like, there is going to be people want connection. They want all these things. Like talk about the world of customer service. There is probably no industry that is more worried about disruption by AI right now than customer service writ large. Um, if you look at that, it is going to change and is going to change immensely. Does that mean that we're never going to have a human on the other side of a customer service line ever again? No, no, it's not. It means what they're going to do are different things. And what I would always point people to is Zappos. I don't know if anybody has ever called. If you haven't done so, just go on Google. Zappos is a shoe store owned by Amazon,
Yep.
in fact, if people don't know. Call up their customer service. Just call them up and see what happens. I've done this before. I actually did this when I was at PayPal with one of my teams to just use as an example. They don't ask you, like, oh, what's your number? What's your blah, 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 whatever. I called them one time. They're based in Vegas. And I was like, hey, I'm going to Vegas in a couple months. Anything cool I should be doing while I'm out there? Like, what's new? Like, any new food? And like literally on the other line, Zappos was just like, oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, there's this one place that opened up. And I had like a 5 minute conversation. They never asked about the product. They never asked about anything. Like, in what? So that's Zappos business model. It's like they are all about human connection. Are they going to be using AI to do that and replace that? No, they're going to supplement, but like that is what their whole business is about. I'm not saying you have to be Zappos. I'm not saying you have to be
Sure.
all the way over here, but like if you don't talk to your customers, like, yeah, the pending AI agent, like you have to say, well, how am I going to be able to differentiate myself from that? You have to
Yeah.
kind of decide where on the spectrum are you and is
100%.
your business. And for you to really survive and thrive, the further you get to a Zappos-like experience, that's where you want to be. Because an AI is never going to do that. An AI is going to be able to help you out. It's going to be able to help you get to that and spend more time with your customers, but it ain't going to be able to play golf with one of your customers.
100%. And it goes back to when some of these insurance companies started going direct to consumer and selling straight to consumer, cutting out the insurance agent. And you could go online and get a quote and bind it. People thought, oh, that's going to be the end of the independent agent. But they still call you when they have a claim. They still
Yes.
call you when they have questions. They still call. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget the first time that happened to me as an agency owner, an insurance agent. And I remember someone calling me and was like, hey, I need to ask you a question, file a claim my progressive policy. And I was searching forever trying to find this guy. And I was like, I don't find you in our system. Are you sure with our agency? He's like, oh, I bought it online. I just needed someone to help me with the process of filing the claim. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm okay here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
go under. Our agency's not going to die.
Right.
Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing with ChatGPT. I think that human connection's
Totally.
always gonna need to be there. So I know you, and I know you and I have talked about this, and the point of you being on this podcast, just to have fun and talk, and you're not really selling anything. But if
No, no.
someone did want to, I know, which is crazy, and I'm like, you got to find something to sell.
No,
But
I'm all right. I'm all right.
I mean, if someone wanted to reach out to have further conversations or wanted to engage with you somehow, talk to me a little, talk to the audience about how they could do that. What's the best way of doing that?
MikeTedasco@gmail.com. That's
Okay,
my email address. I'll just throw it out there. If anybody wants to chat about this, has questions, like I love doing this. A couple things like I have a LinkedIn. If people want to go there, follow me on LinkedIn. I write a bunch about AI. I have a newsletter. It's all free. I do this a lot because I love it. If I can help people out, yeah, shoot me an email or anything like that. I'm happy to answer those questions or anything like that. Like if you're a fan of Heath, then you're a fan of mine. So or
there you
wait, then I'm
go.
a fan of yours. If you're a fan of Heath, I'm a fan of yours, is what I meant to say, and I
There
will
you
be
go.
happy to help you out.
Yeah, if they want to join our school, or our flock, or not our flock, our pod,
Or
or our
plod.
team of dolphins, I would love for
That's
that to
right.
happen.
That's
So,
right.
man, there was so much more I could have gotten into with you, and I know we rabbit trailed a little bit, but I just knew this conversation was going to be good. I knew it was going to be a 5-star reviewed podcast. So go ahead right now. I know probably some of you are like, I already did that. How'd you know I was going to do that? But if you came back from doing that, thank you for doing that. If you didn't do that and you want to join the other pod of podcasters that went to the reviews and gave me a 5-star, go for it. Because this podcast was awesome. Reach out, find him on LinkedIn. Go to MikeTedasco@gmail.com. If you're in San Diego and you want to take one of his classes, I don't know if you teach classes or not, but
I
or read his
do. I do.
blogs.
You don't have, here's the thing, people don't have to just play with the tools. They're great
There you go.
themselves. I mean, yeah, you don't have to
Man,
take an
just
expensive class.
engage, get engaged with this guy and have some fun. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Let's
Same here.
let's sign off before I continue on any further with my love fest of Mike Tedasco. Thank you so much. I appreciate you greatly.
Pleasure, Heath.